A very good afternoon to everybody present. My name is Kiara Welde, and it is a proud privilege to stand before you all today, presenting my speech on bettering gender stereotypes in the film industry. When I was 2 months old, the first film I was taken to watch in the theaters was the famous Chak De India, starring the legendary Shah Rukh Khan, Sagarika Ghadge, and Vidya Nalwade, among others. It's also the first movie I remember watching at home, mesmerized by the cast, the suspense, the direction, and the very way the movie was spun. Till date, I love it, be it the iconic 70-minute speech or the very last penalty shot. That was one of the first times I realized how much I loved sitting in front of a television screen, lapping up the glamour and the story shown to me. As I grew older and older, the movies changed. I watched entertainment, action, romance, true stories, documentaries, among others, the variety ranging far and wide. But considering the fact that there was so much exposure in my life, so many new and vivid experiences, I started to see a whole lot of these movies somewhat differently. I started noticing differences that came through my growing older, first very subtly, but then they were loud and harsh. There were so many glaring issues in the movies that I loved dearly that I started to get very confused about this new perception. The problem wasn't, however, how I viewed these films or their characters, but simply the way they were being portrayed. I'm sure I wasn't the only one who saw these beloved films in a new light, for at the end of the day, the entertainment industries are booming ones, catering to large audiences from various backgrounds. 9 in 10 Indians have televisions in their homes, and most Indians with televisions also have cable television. Apart from this, Indians are increasingly using internet devices to access entertainment media. India has 243 million internet users, an estimated 1,000 films produced every year in dozens of languages, and an international viewership of about 3.9 billion. Without doubt, this shows that entertainment media has great influence on its corresponding viewers. A study by the Gina Davis Institute on Gender in Media shows that people imitate the styles, behaviors, and attitudes that they see in film and television. Adult participants of the study noticed that films and televisions are especially influential with young children. Viewers of all ages said that they were inspired by films that showed more equality between men and women, and that portray women in successful jobs. Female participants in particular offered many examples of films and characters that have positively influenced their life choices and career aspirations, like Mardani and Mary Kom. Indian viewers attributed increasing rates of female education in the country to the influence of media showing girls and women in more professional roles. According to participants, educated women in the real world lead to more educated women in the real world. Many participants across age groups also talked about the power of media to raise awareness about violence against women in order to tackle this severe social problem. But there was concern about how exactly the violence against women is depicted in films and television. It is believed that media depictions of rape and acid attacks have inspired some of these acts in real life. Even in some prominent movies like Kabir Singh, a very famous Hindi film starring Shahid Kapoor that was a major hit, a discussion can be had on the difference between portraying reality and glorifying the same reality. It is violence against women in Bollywood films that we need to strive to not glorify. Films need to show the audience how downright horrifying it is, enabling its identifying and calling out, like the father in Secret Superstar, rather than showing it as the hero's entitlement. Bollywood is also seen to normalize stalking and harassment in the name of love. Tu haan kar ya na kar, tu hai meri kiran has been the go-to mantra for Bollywood for many, many ages because ladki ki na mein hi haan chupi hoti hai, right? Even in blockbuster movies like Ranjana and Tere Naam, the hero is shown as someone who is so deeply in love with the girl that they're willing to give up their lives for her. In fact, the girl is blamed for not reciprocating the same obsessed love. And many of these films keep trying to establish that men are superior, which is why women have to give in eventually. Bollywood managed to make even these obsessive lovers palatable by packaging them with romantic songs, which induces a deep sense of empathy and liking among viewers, thus enabling the selling of the movie. Some participants of the same study also pointed out that if this violence is shown with no negative repercussions, it can encourage real-world violence. It was definitely agreed that social issues are important to show in entertainment correctly in order to raise awareness of problems and offer solutions. But while we discuss how the female characters accept the questionable behaviors of characters around them, we also must think about who exactly these characters represent in the first place. How exactly are women portrayed in Indian films? While many remarkable women-centric films have been made over the years, like Queen, Pink, and Thappad, some of the recent ones have not moved very far from the millennia-old constructs created by a patriarchal society. Women are generally peripheral to the story and are portrayed as embodying the virtues described in this 1,000-year-old Sanskrit shloka quote, which unfortunately is supposed to be the blueprint of how female characters are portrayed in the mainstream Indian film industry. The shloka goes as follows: Karyeshu dasi, Karaneshu mantri, Bhujeshu mata, Shayaneshu rambha, Rupeshu lakshmi, Shameshu dharitri, Shatadharma yukta, Kuladharma patni. The translation of this is quite literally, she works like a slave, advises like a minister, feeds you like a mother, skilled in bed like the divine courtesan Rambha, as beautiful as the goddess Lakshmi, and forgives your transgressions like the earth. These are supposed to be the 6 qualities of an ideal wife. Which raises the question to mind, is this really how we want the young girls who watch these films to become? Other than the sanskari damsel in distress, who makes basically no difference to the plot, we have the seductresses. It is they who will momentarily take the hero's mind off of the prize and inevitable victory. This would include women in item songs or women who've been hired or a romantic interest for the villains. Indian films are known to be third behind German and Australian films in showing females in sexual attire. So till date, women in Indian films are trapped in such stereotypes. Women are typically shown as non-working and if employed are seldom shown in positions of power or in STEM jobs, usually conforming to gender norms by being nurses, teachers, models, etc. The whole society is patriarchal. Female-led films are known to open on a lesser number than male-led films, which has been changing, but very slowly. And it does need a change everywhere. People need to be paid as per their talent and what they bring to the table, and not on the basis of their gender. Another glaring issue we see is that of women being portrayed on the sidelines, essentially discussing, you guessed it, men. In an attempt to fix this very issue, the Bechdel test was created and introduced back in 1985 by Alison Bechdel. She decided to explore the inclusion of female characters in films with the help of 3 very basic criteria. To pass the test, the movie has to have at least 2 female named characters who talk to each other specifically about something other than a man. A shockingly large number of hit movies, however, do not pass this test, and many other popular tests like the Waite, Pierce, or Landau test. While this does happen to be the situation with the female characters that we see on screen, it does beg the question of what exactly goes on backstage. Women's participation in the industry is known to be low. Women are far fewer in numbers behind the screen. Though India has had some of the earliest women producers like Devika Rani and Jadeen Bai, and successful directors like Zoya Akhtar today, India sees only 9% female directors, 12% female writers, and 15% female producers. These are less than global averages. This also plays a role when it comes to the portrayal of women on screen, as it is measured that movies with female writers or directors have significantly more women on screen. Along with this, we also face pay disparity, which is not just in the Indian film industry but across the globe, something that we all need to fight for. Both men and women work equally hard to make a film successful, and yet the women get paid less. Despite women-oriented films doing well at the box office, the budget framed for these films versus those of men in lead have an enormous difference. Of course, inseparable from issues of gender sensitivity are LGBTQIA issues. For some time now, there has been a cry about the representation of the community. While there have been some misguided portrayals in Dostana or Mastizade or so many others where it's used as a tool for comic relief and mockery, there's also Fire or Illegal and the Tamil film Super Deluxe that have dealt with the subject matter with utmost sincerity, sensitivity, and maturity. But the Indian filmmaking culture somehow still appears confused towards forming. While there have been some misguided portrayals in Dostana or Mastizade that have been used for tools of comic relief and mockery, there's also Fire or Illegal and the Tamil film Super Deluxe that have dealt with the subject matter with utmost sincerity, sensitivity, and maturity. But the Indian filmmaking culture somehow still appears confused towards forming a universal opinion about projecting homosexual characters. We've all observed the scandalized comprehension of two actors being discovered in a compromised position by possibly a parental figure. We've also seen the absurdity in the portrayal of a gay character whose apparent life's mission is hitting on random people. Finally, there's the famous reliable cross-dressing joke. If you come up with a really unfunny catchphrase, get a man to say it in a squeaky voice wearing women's clothing, there you go, receive your laughs. The reason why such folly depictions seem to work in India is the same reason why people don't say he is gay, but say he is a gay. Disassociation from homosexual people has got a cultural thumbs up a long time ago. It drifted onto the younger mindsets too, saying ye to wo hai, every time they found someone to be gender suspicious. As a society, we are programmed to view films on the community only as a depiction of their lives, as it is a depressed, isolated, outcast life. Though films that depict reality are of supreme importance in the realms of making people aware, it is also quite crucial that we start a desire for films that have characters actually belonging to the community, living an accustomed life, facing normal societal or personal conflicts, and not discriminatory, oppressing ones. Various film organizations of producers, directors, writers, etc., and also individuals should be engaged to talk about these topics in greater detail through workshops. Research should be shared, and they should be encouraged to make films with more conscious thought. There are so many issues that we can talk about, so many stories and ideas that we need to discuss in greater detail. It is no secret that representation in media today is of utmost importance, for we need to see the journeys and real lives of people around us, rather than blindly accept of what is being sold to us. There are some solutions discussed that we can consider for the same, ways that we can implement to be assured that the next phase of Indian cinema is a more progressive one. Of course, additionally, to boost the representation that we want, commercial names will certainly help, along with the use of OTT to expand the canvas. It is true that 50 years ago, Indian cinema was struggling much more and portraying their characters in what is today an unimaginable light. While the ideal cinema is not possible, as the youth, we must strive to make it better in as many ways as possible. Just like I was once sitting in front of a television screen, my eyes twinkling at the joy of the movie I was watching, there are others who deserve to be shown better stories. We cannot always build the future for the youth, but we can build the youth to lead the future. That's exactly the responsibility that's been given to us, so that we can become better leaders of tomorrow and someday build better leaders as well. Thank you.